Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Faster Way podcast. I am so thrilled to be here today with my new friend, Dr. Andy Galpin. Dr. Andy, I just followed you on social media and I was so excited about your content. It seems like we're very aligned on quite a few things related to fitness, nutrition, and longevity. But thank you so much for being with us.
I'm super excited to get into it.
So, as we jump in, I want to hear when and why you entered into the wellness space and into your field of research.
Yeah, I grew up in the country, and the kids are around, everybody played sports. That's what we sort of did. And the general ethos of where I grew up, people, it was okay to lose. It was fine. There are better athletes, but it was never okay to underprepare. Hard
Mm.
work and all that stuff was a really high virtue in my family, in my neighbors, and my coaches, and so on and so forth. So I was a reasonable athlete, but I wasn't elite either. And so I was in this perfect spot where if I worked harder, it made a difference. But if I didn't, that also made a difference. And so taking that into adulthood, I knew that I didn't want to do what my parents did for a living, and they didn't want me to do that either. That's pretty much what they only thing they ever told me as a kid is like, do whatever you want, but you're not doing what we did. This is really hard kind of lifestyles. So, going into college, I played college football, and I was like, how do I make this into a career? I didn't want to be a sport coach, but I wanted to be in this field and I wanted to do something different. I didn't know what a PhD was. I didn't know what a scientist was. I'd never met anybody that ever done anything like that. I had no concept. And so I sort of just forged forward and said, like, I like sports. I want to prepare better than everyone else. So how do I make sure that I'm doing what I can to be a better athlete personally? And then this is pretty cool, right? So if how can I figure out a career in this? And that was a little bit of a meandering road, but that's how I eventually got here. So it was mostly selfish, not wanting to have to work construction and do things like that my parents had to do, and then wanting to, you know, find a way to be personally better. And that then led itself into initially working with super low income or no income people. You're talking about female wrestlers. I actually coached a girl named Helen Maroulis, who was the first American ever to win a gold medal in the Olympics in wrestling.
Wow.
So I gotta say, I just like loved. I started off with high level NFL guys in Major League Baseball and stuff, but I loved working with the Helens of the world because nobody cared about women's wrestling in 2014. Like nobody cared at all. And so I just like wanted to be with somebody like me. It was like, you don't have money, I don't have money. Great. You don't have like you just want to do something that no one's going to care about. Great. That's what I want to do. And then let's go do something that if nobody even notices, who cares? But you're going to have this lifelong dream. And if I can help you just a little bit in that dream, then let's go all in. So that's initially where it got started. It's evolved plenty of times since then, but that's really the background.
I love that. What position did you play when you played football in college?
I was a safety.
Okay, very cool. And what year did you graduate from college? I'm just curious.
2005,
Okay.
2005. So I played 2001, 2005. We were a small school. Linfield College is the name of it. We won a national championship. So we had a lot of success. It was
Cute.
super fun. It's Division III, but I loved
Yeah.
it.
Hey, that's awesome. I love it. I went to a small private school as well, and I played volleyball, basketball, a little bit of basketball, and soccer in high school. And then I was a walk-on soccer player in college. Which, looking at me, you'd think I'd be a runner. And they tried to get me on the track team and cross country team for years, but just played for a little while and then worked full time. But I was an exercise and sports science major for a
Yep.
very long day and then was like, you know what? I actually want to do psychology to learn health psychology and a little bit more about behavior and motivation because I was already training. I worked in gyms as a high schooler. I started training my freshman year, and my whole college career had a personal training company. And the psychology really, to this day, comes in very, very handy. But part of me wishes I would have done like a dual major of exercise
Sure.
sports science. So you were a professor of kinesiology at California State University, Fullerton for 13 years. And now you're the executive director of the Human Performance Center at Parker University, which is really, really cool. And we in the pre-interview chat were talking about some of your companies. Tell us just a little bit about your companies, and then we're going to dive into a topic of sleep.
Okay. So the first one being the Human Performance Center, that is located, Parker University is in Dallas, and the charge there is to become really the world's leader in human performance from a university level. And so
Mm,
we are building a 64,000 square foot, really innovative facility down there that is in part for research, in part for our students, but the other part is for the community. And so we have an interactive museum for kids, and we have it's like an homage to human performance and adaptability and plasticity and resilience. We have stuff for the community to come in and use and to get access to some of this testing and things like that. It's not open yet, but it will be really soon. We're under construction right now. We are doing a number of projects already in that, though. I have two phenomenal scientists. Federica Conti is wonderful as my research scientist, and then Zoe Hackinson. And Zoe is actually doing a project right now, just as an example, that we are going to do we are in the middle of collecting data on the first ever study where we are tracking high fidelity sleep measurements
hmm.
across the entire menstrual cycle.
Wow. Oh, sign me up.
So you'll be stunned, but there is very poor data on what actually happens objectively to sleep throughout the menstrual cycle.
I
There's a
can
lot
tell
of
you
questionnaires.
subjectively, I'll tell you subjectively exactly what happens because I track this every single day. I've now moved my tracking over to ChatGPT. I'll send you I wish there was like a shared chat option, but I can show you subjectively everything because I track it
Yeah.
so well.
So that, I mean, that's fantastic. What we're doing is putting the objectivity behind it as well. And so
Wow.
we're looking at, we are directly testing hormones daily. So I'm not just guessing that ovulation was day 14. We're going to directly show what was luteinizing hormone at, where was estrogen, where was progesterone, like all these things, so that we can specifically tie any change in objective or subjective measures in sleep. See, like, is this actually related to hormone surges, fluctuations, or not? Because the interesting juxtaposition there is anecdotally, most women will report higher energy during certain phases and lower energy during other phases, right? Totally normal. You'll basically see that across the board. I accept that. We'll see that too. The question is why? Is it actually a change coming from sleep? And if it is, then great. Now we have a whole set of solutions that we do all the time with, our sleep stuff we can chat about. Or alternatively, if it's not, fine. Then we know the perceived fatigue you're having, the brain fog you're having, the opposite, the excitation, the focus is nothing to do with sleep, and it is something else in the metabolic chain. And now we have a different way. So science is always about getting us closer to more answers. No matter how it shakes up, it actually doesn't matter. But we'll be able to now close the book and say, look, it is not related to sleep. Fatigue you're having is something else, or directly is stop messing around with A, B, and C. I don't know where it's going to shake out, but that's just one example of the type of work that happens in when we say human performance, like that is human performance. We work with some athletes, we work with some non-athletes. I don't care, but that is a performance issue. And if we can help, we do work in the area of male specific stuff. We do area research in the area of female specific stuff. This was just something that Federica and Zoe were super interested in. I was interested in. So we feel like this helps people perform better, and we're going to go after it from a scientific perspective.
Man. And every body is different. And I think of
Yeah.
myself and my blood type and my body type and my best friend who never ever has issues with sleep, regardless of where she's at in her cycle. Her head hits the pillow, but she has a similar personality to my husband, who's same thing. 2 minutes later, he's fast asleep. 20 minutes later, right when I finally start to fall asleep, he starts talking. Now he's talking in his sleep. So now I'm up again. And for me, it's like I can pinpoint exactly when my cycle is going to hit based on when my sleep is disrupted. I know
Yep.
exactly when it's coming based on my sleep, but I'm also a very poor detoxer. I'm missing two genes for detox. And so if I, like take certain supplements or I have a matcha tea like 30 minutes too late, then, so, oh man, we might have to, we'll do a deep dive on this. But I do want to mention, so I have thousands of clients and coaches in Dallas, and I'm there quite often. I will be there for a live client event in August. I'd be so curious to visit your facility sometime.
Yeah, that'd be tremendous. I'll be there in August as well, actually. So we could link up maybe after the show and coordinate that.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are actively recruiting for that study, and you do not have to be in Dallas.
Sign me up.
Anywhere in the US. There you have to be, there's a lot of criteria that you have to meet. And one of them, unfortunately, is you can't have had kids in the past.
Oh, well, then I'm five times an offender of that. So,
Yeah. And that's only just because standardization has to happen. We actually are going to, if this goes well and we can get funding, we'll do it.
yeah,
We actually want to do it with menopause related questions and other
yeah,
ones, but you have to start with the least amount of variables possible.
got it.
So you go big control and then we get funding, we can expand. But anyways, yeah.
Oh,
But we have other options for you. If you still want to do stuff in the area of sleep, we can go in that route.
we're going to talk more about sleep, but okay, you have that company,
Yep.
which is
So
called,
that is our that specifically is just at Parker and the Human Performance Center. We got a
got
lot of
it.
research that happens there, but that is a typical university research setting. If you want to come and get a master's degree with us or an undergrad degree, like that's what happens there. That is related to my sleep company, Absolute Rest.
Love that name.
And so Absolute Rest, thank you.
It's a good
I wish I
brand.
could tell you I'm the one that created it. My co-founder, Josh, pulled that one out. Yeah, actually, let me ask you this. The tagline I thought we should have for that company was called Rest in Peace, and he
No,
hated it. He won't let me
no.
do that.
No, so I am a wellness professional, but I'm a marketer first. That's my core competency. Do you want me
Yeah.
to come up with a better tagline for you? Because I absolutely could.
Yeah.
I have the
And he's
brand
like,
is great.
it's like a 3 or 4 year joke now. I'm like, rest in peace. Come on. He's like, no, you're the scientist. Like, this is not your area. Fine,
Stick
whatever.
with your zone of genius, both of
Yeah.
you. That's great.
Yeah.
So tell me about that company.
So we are able to offer at home full medically cleared FDA approved sleep testing.
Wow.
And so we are actually have the only technology in the world that allows us to do that. We can run the same fidelity of testing that you would get in any clinical sleep lab, but we can do it from your house.
Love it.
And that's cool, but that's not really what makes us super valuable. What we are on is a mission to help people improve their sleep, whatever that means to them. And so testing is fine. That's one part of it. Where most people fail is they stop at testing. Great. We want to know at the highest technological ability possible how you sleep, right? I want to know when you're on your right shoulder and your left shoulder, when you're on your back. I want to know all the details. I want to know exactly what's going on in, uh, again, the highest level of fidelity we could possibly give. We're the only company that can do that. Past that, then the real fun starts when we start asking, why are you sleeping that way? And so what we do is we have an environmental scanner. This sits in your room. It runs passive. It's running full real-time analysis of carbon dioxide, pollen, dander, allergens, sound, light. We actually run through every light in your house and scan them for very specific concentrations of melanopic blue light or other things. It's not just total lux, but it's all these micro things. And maybe I should have started this earlier, but the reason we built this was because a lot of the folks on our founding team, we were responsible for sleep in the International Space Station. We're responsible for sleep in these areas where like we cannot miss. And so we kept thinking like we do this in other places. Why can't we bring this to our high performers? So like that's the level of accuracy and detail we go into. We run genetic testing. We run blood testing for sleep specific items. We have cognitive testing. We have psychological battery. We have positional measurements and so on and so forth. So we have all these things, and those tell us why you're sleeping that way.
Yeah.
Is it something as simple as your nutrition? Is it something more complicated like a behavioral? Once we have that information, we now know why you're sleeping that way. We can give you very specific and precise technical solutions. And so the idea is you collect a huge amount of data so that we can get very targeted and oftentimes really specific solutions. And so no more just like guessing and doing all the things because that's completely impossible, right? My wife can't do that. Like I can't, there's no chance someone in my family could do these like 50 different optimizer sleep sort of things. We'd rather know the data and then say, you need to go do A, B, and C. And that is
Oh,
really what it is. And so along the way, after we give that, we track, measure, monitor, update, adjust, see what's working, what's not, until people are at the end of the game, which is where I started and saying, We're here to solve the problem, not test. That's ultimately what we do. And so we have a very, very high success rate. We have a full money back guarantee. Um, you have to do something. So if you don't do it, you're not going to work. But you'll have the most quality testing you've ever had in your life and the highest likelihood of solution. And I'm comfortable saying that. And I'm so comfortable. I have a money back guarantee.
Okay, so I'm signing up. Like send me the link now, text it to me. So sleep has been a huge pain point for me since I was in high school. I had pretty bad insomnia in high school, ended up going on prescription sleep medication. Now,
Yeah.
I was not healthy. I was on blood pressure medication as well. I had a metabolic disorder. I was the student body president. I was the captain of the volleyball team, captain of the soccer team, just highly, highly stressed. But I remember I'd be up like at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, just working literally as a high school because I had nothing, I couldn't sleep. So I just plan out student events, da, da, da. But it's been a major, major issue all through college, even when I was an athlete, which again was a very short time, but then I started working full time. I've had 5 babies. That's very disruptive to sleep. Finally, my littlest just started sleeping through the night, but there's been very few seasons in my life where I haven't needed major sleep aids and a whole wind down routine, which is so ridiculous. I got
Yeah.
my PEMF mat. I do the sauna. I do the supplement right after dinner. I do and it's like I'm missing detox genes, so I'm highly sensitive. I cannot do THC. Like my body can't do alcohol or THC. If I do like a quarter gummy, I am like done for the week. Like
Yeah.
Amanda's not gonna like, and it's just so ridiculous, Andy.
Yeah.
And you want to know, so my husband and I have been best friends since he was in first grade, and we've been married for a very long time. You want to know how many hours of his life he's worried about sleep?
Yeah.
Do you want to
I could
know?
probably tell you.
Never, never in his life has sleep been a concern for him. Never one
Yeah.
time. Never a single. And it's like I spend so much time preparing for sleep, worrying about sleep, not sleeping, staying in my bed. And then the thing is, like in your research, I'm sure what you find too is like, as you mentioned before, at different times throughout the cycle,
Yep.
but everybody is different. So, like, there's when I'm ovulating, I struggle to sleep. 2 days before I get my period, I struggle to, and then it's like, oh my gosh, should I have done this supplement stack instead of that? And then the thing is, you find the perfect supplement stack, and then you become totally intolerant. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like then it stops
Yeah.
working. So then you got to switch it up again. Then you're trying the new peptides for sleep and blah, blah, blah. And it's like if someone could just test me for these things, like, okay, we know we need to test you for your dopamine and your GABA and your blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then here's what you need to do. And by the way, it's going to work for longer than 3 months. Like I have said for years, just imagine if Amanda Tress wasn't only functioning at 40% energy. Just imagine we would have
Yeah.
been $1 billion brand by now. It's going to
Um,
take me 5 years longer because I don't sleep.
yeah, there's a lot of things to say about that, but maybe I'll start with just a short one, and that is we actually focus on not maximizing sleep. We focus on maximizing sleep resilience. That is our core
Interesting.
competency.
Tell me more. What does that mean?
Which here's what that means. We work with everything from surgeons to nurses to people that work construction overnight, military, and moms, right? Those people don't have the luxury of a 90-minute routine and a set schedule, like all that stuff. So yeah, we'll do that. Great. We're here. If you're getting in your own way, we'll take care of that. But where most people are at is that amendment. It is, well, that's great. But my team is in Shanghai, so I have to be up at this sort of time. I have a 5 kid. Great. So developing resilient sleepers to us means can we get you to have the most efficient sleep within your constraints
Mhm.
and to have the most efficient day the next day, independent of, great, had a bad night last night, laid there for an hour and a half. Okay, awesome. Instead of coddling, instead of running and switching and jumping, trying a new supplement or Let's make sure we're saying, great, that happened. Awesome. Now, how can we have the most productive day possible?
Mhm.
And how do we not let sleep create itself into its own dysfunction? What I mean by that is, are you familiar with the term orthosomnia?
No.
This is a clinical sleep disorder that is created from focusing on sleep tracking.
Oh, I believe it. I got rid of my Aura ring after like 2 weeks because it just would tell me how much I suck. I'm like, why
Right.
am breastfeeding a baby? Like, I don't know what you want from me. Like,
Totally.
I'm up 7 times. Like, what am I? Yeah.
And so this sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Here I am being like, you have to have the most advanced testing in the whole world. And then I'm also saying like testing creates insomnia. Because the answer is it's both, right? And so what we really try to do is guide folks and figure out, okay, this is no longer serving you. We actually need to take A, B, and C and D away. We might actually take part of your routine away. We might say, nope, 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 gone. Because why? It's creating sensitivity. Now, when you are not in that routine and you get off it a little bit, you are a disaster. That's not resilient, right? We need to have a little bit of play here to where we know our playbook, we know what works, we know what's optimal. That said, when things come off the train, as happens probably weekly with you,
Yeah.
I mean, you got 5 kids. Somebody's sick at some point. Somebody woke up in the middle of the night to pee. Like
Always.
it's multiple times a week that's happening. Great. What are our strategies and techniques to become resilient when that happens, so that we're not like, oh my gosh, and then the mind turns it into a worse pattern. And so there's lots of strategies for that. We actually we call that chaos management. And so it's chaos
I
management,
love
right?
that.
It
I
is
love it.
how do we keep you resilient when chaos is happening? Because that is a part of life. I think sometimes when people hear these discussions and when you don't include that part, it's like, oh, that's great. Well, yeah, you're a 34-year-old entrepreneur. You live in Oceanside, San Diego, and like you don't have kids. Super easy. Yeah, yeah, you sure. Like, tell me what happens when you run 4 companies and kids. And like, I have 5 companies and a podcast and children and a wife and like, I have to be resilient. That's just like it's going to happen. So that is the overall philosophical approach we would have for somebody like you is to say, great, let's not worry about optimal. Like that's just nowhere near where we're at right now. Maybe optimal, you sell the company for 3 billion. Maybe we'll talk to optimal. But like now it's resilient. That's what we're focused on.
I actually love that. I always tell my concierge doctor, I'm like, don't sit here and tell me to meditate. Don't sit here and
Yeah.
tell me like all these things that I need to remove from my life. I said, tell me how to biohack my way to
Yeah.
a rock solid immune system, awesome energy, in spite of the amount of things that I'm handling. And I am a very stress effective person. So there's very few things that will keep me up at night, but there are things that keep me up at night. I can handle things that most female entrepreneurs my age would be like, oh my gosh, I quit. I'm like, I deal with the lawsuits. I deal with, I have, yes, the kid, but it's like, there's a lot. But I tell my guy, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and meditate. I have ADH freaking D. Like, what do you like? It's just not going to happen. And I am going to work 17 hours a day. So I love your philosophy. Like that's the philosophy I've been waiting for. Not give me like all these little cheap tips of like the mouth tape and the da 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 da. Da. And it's always these guys who don't have kids. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
business is like not the size of mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this came off of like I started off saying I had that passion for the lower level non-support person, right? No resources. Most of our time, though, in our career has been the opposite. It is, we have, in fact, Absolute Rest, that company, as I mentioned, was built because myself and some of these other experts were at a private, like behind closed doors meeting
Yeah.
and sleep came up. And then everyone's like, oh, you have all these billion-dollar athletes. You guys got to be doing something crazy. I'm like I either send them to a sleep hospital or I send them a $400 wearable. And we were like, oh my gosh. So we created this, and it turns out there's a huge market for people who are like, whatever it takes to sleep a little bit better, because I make a lot of money when I sleep a little bit better. And so then we said, okay, what would this look like if it had to work? It was everything from all the aspects. And we did that. And then with our coaching program, it was the same thing, right? It's not about extracting money and putting crazy price points on it, but it is saying if you had to have a comprehensive system that put all this stuff together in the face of some non-negotiable. Some of the times, by the way, that's stuff like I'm an alcoholic. Okay, I'm not changing. What can we do? All right, fine. Like we all know that's bad. You know that's bad. Great. But you tell me the rules of the game. I'm only going to work out twice a week. Great. I'm only going to do this. Fine. You give me the restrictions, and our job is to say this is exactly the right combination for you as best as we can tell. We monitor, we change, we see what happens. Your body is different. I don't, no one's a magician, but that is what we have focused on a lot. So it's a real huge challenge, but that's the clientele that has come to us most, and we've had the most success with. So building resilience in the face of a whole bunch of stuff is where it gets really fun.
Yeah. Okay. Share just the most common needle mover that you've seen, and then I want to move on to talking
For
about
sleep,
vitality blueprint. Yeah, like what, like for
yeah.
building up this resilience, what's like the most common needle mover?
Okay, so man, I'll give you a couple real short ones. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there's not one. Sometimes it is as idiot proof, like people spend tens of thousands with us, and then they come back and I'm like, all right, you need to switch your pillow. And we're
Love
like,
it. Love it.
dope, right? And so we do have these miracle like stories where we'll reduce awakening events by 90% night one using really small devices for something that's called positional therapy. And you're like, great. And then we have the other end of the bell curve is, hey, we need to do chronic sleep restriction training with you. We need to do behavioral therapy. We need to do these 6 weeks of these tongue exercises, and we need to uh, put an entire new air ventilation system in your room. So
Mm-hmm.
the bell curve is on both sides, where it's like this is going to be a thing here,
Yeah.
and then there's the thing, and then most people are somewhere in the middle. It is something to do with a jaw position. And so that might be an oral appliance. It could be something that they're doing with their exercise routine. And it might be switching that out as well. And then we might tinker on a little bit of down regulation practice, right? Most people are in the middle. It's going to be 3 or 4 things. And those 3 or 4 things could be something like 10 weeks of cognitive therapy
Mm.
plus uh, this stretching exercise plus this light strategy in the morning plus. And so what we try to do is stack people with a whole bunch of passive changes. You don't have to actively do anything, but we're going to switch out your pillow. We're going to switch out air quality filter. We're going to switch. Okay, that didn't work. Now let's add on more aggressive therapies and strategies. And sometimes it is a CPAP. That's like our
Mm.
nuclear option. But
Wow.
we will go there if like we really have to. Sometimes it's facial surgery. So there's everything on the spectrum, and so that's 6 or 8 things I sort of just mentioned that are those are all in our playbook,
Yeah.
and it just really depends on the person's physiology and background and so forth. So super specific, and it can be big or it can be super small.
So it's more external versus take these three supplements.
Um, you would have spent a lot of money to get that advice from us, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it.
We'll Yeah, and that's all part of it. And if somebody comes in and says, "Great, the money's not the issue," but my time ability is 15 minutes. We have actually somebody like that right now. And he's like, no, my time is more expensive. Great. So you got 15 minutes a day. What can we get done in 15 minutes? And I'll accept the maximum benefit out of that. Great. Again, you tell us the rules. And we're not going to like force you into an hour of meditation every day if you're like, that's not what I. And so we will say, what's the most impactful thing we can do? If budget is a limit too, fine. Then I can only spend this amount. Okay, great. Like you tell us the rules of the game and we'll be as effective as we can within those constraints. So if that looks like a few supplemental changes to you, fine. If that looks like, whatever else, if you want the 6 hour routine, like fine, we'll do that too.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Have time for a 6 hour routine. Um, Tell me about Vitality Blueprint.
By the way, sorry not to drag this on. We actually had a guy who we worked with who was getting up at about 11 p.m. because he had a 6 hour morning routine that he had to get done before he was on the job site at 7 every day.
Gosh.
So he literally had a 5 to 6 hour morning routine, still worked, ran a huge, huge company, probably one that most of you would know. And he was going to bed at like 5 p.m., waking up at like 11:30, sometimes 12:30, so he could do his 5 or 6 hours and get to the job site by 6 or 7. So
Wow.
That's a real thing.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well,
to the blood stuff. So vitality is our blood diagnostic interpretation, and just like absolute rest, it is the solution step. So it's hyper-specific supplementation, micronutrients, nutrition, lifestyle stuff based on blood for high performance. So this is not hormone replacement therapy. We don't give medicines. We don't do diseases, anything like that. This is for the athletic side of the equation. If you want to perform at your best, if you want to maximize your energy, if you want the highest cognitive functionality you can get, increase recovery, like that's what that blood work platform will do. And so you can order blood through us, or if you have blood and you want to just upload it to our software, it'll analyze and interpret it not for what your concierge medicine doc is doing. They're doing an awesome job. They're looking at disease and medication. We're looking at it and saying, oh, we're seeing markers here that are suggesting we could enhance focus cognitively through A, B, and C. We can maximize recovery over here, analyze that for you, tell you what all that means, and then give you a very specific guided A, B, and C, D, E, all the way through F of what to do to enhance as much as we can the root cause. So what we don't do is marker by marker. This is low, take more of it. This is high, take less of that. That's a bad way to approach blood work. And so it is trying to figure out the pattern within your molecular signature that says, oh, you really need to actually start here and back away from a bunch of other stuff, and that'll auto-correct itself so that physiology can run the way it wants to run. So it is that side of the equation again for high performance.
yeah, Vitality Blueprint. I like that name as well. Was that your business partner too? He came up with that brand.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that name either. I pushed
I
back hard actually. I like vitality,
like
but
Vitality. I think Blueprint's a good word. Longevity is super trendy right now as a
yeah.
word. Transparent is a great word. Um, we're not spitballing on brands though. So that's really interesting. And I like what you said about not just looking at your blood markers and saying, okay, your vitamin D's low, so take more vitamin D, really looking at that root cause. Your iron's low, take more iron. Your B is low, take more B. That's very interesting. And I haven't heard many people say that. Your progesterone's low, here's why, instead of just
Yeah.
take more progesterone.
Yeah, so that you actually bring up a couple of really good examples. Let's take vitamin D if you don't mind. Vitamin D is one of the ones where you can actually get away with that. If your vitamin D is low, fine. You want to take vitamin D, not a big deal. Okay. But everything else you just listed, iron specifically, I won't call it dangerous, but iron is very reactive. Whenever you get
Yep.
into minerals and metals and rocks, you really want to think carefully about that. You would not want to just start slugging down iron. Iron can put you in a really bad place, specifically with what it can do to zinc, right? It can do
Yes.
it again. It's hyperreactive, oxygen reactive. It can mess with oxygen. So you want to pay attention in this particular example. If you look at somebody's one-time marker of ferritin, ferritin's kind of like one of the other things you look at there. The variability of ferritin can be like 30 or 40% daily. And so if you look at something like ferritin today and tomorrow, it could be 40% different. You look at something like vitamin D, it's going to be very stable. It'll be the same number today as it was tomorrow as tomorrow. And so you start to make changes based on iron. It could simply be the fact that this is today's blood draw. If you came back tomorrow, you might be below the reference range and low, and then you come back the next day, it might be above it. Iron on top of that is clearly going to change throughout the menstrual cycle. So if you didn't standardize it to what day of your cycle, you also didn't pay attention to what happened with sleep. When you have a weird night of sleep, right, your spleen will start kicking out red blood cells. So we see this actually, we'll see really high markers of red blood cell RBC. We'll see MCV. We'll see hematocrit, hemoglobin going way up. And they're like, oh, you're great. Well, no, you're choking at night. You're choking at night. And so your spleen is trying to ramp up the ability to carry oxygen throughout the system. Yeah. So that's actually a marker of those numbers would be good. And in like the green, like you're great. Like, Amanda, you're doing awesome here. When the reality of it is, then we cross-reference that with something else and go, oh, okay, this is a reaction. So when we pull that, we're going to expect these numbers to come back down to earth for a little bit. You might not feel great, but that's actually what we have to go through to auto-correct the system to get back into place. And so blood work, blood chemistry, bioenergetics is my doctoral work. This stuff gets really, really complicated. And so just like messing with it yourself, throwing it into ChatGPT is a really bad strategy for the vast majority of people because you don't understand, and ChatGPT still doesn't understand this stuff at all. Like, trust me, we do it all the time. I literally did it yesterday with like a bunch of serial data for one of our people. And it's like laughably bad. It's
I
just going to
was
go marker by marker. This is high,
you
take this. This is low, take that.
yeah.
And it won't do well with the interaction stuff.
But
So,
we are so synced up because I was literally, as you were talking, before you mentioned I was going to ask you how much are you leaning on AI? Because here's the thing. I have a variety of doctors. I have a variety of resources. I got two different guys for peptides. I got a guy for exosomes. I got a girl for this. I got a
yeah.
guy for that because I like control and access. And if I want something, I want to get it when I want to get it. But the most helpful resource for me by far and away, because I have an intermediate understanding of kind of how the body works, the most helpful resource for me has been AI. But usually, if it spits something out to me that doesn't look quite right, I can pick up on it. And so then I'll do another quick revision or iteration and kind of train it. So it's
Yep.
not perfect. I know it's not perfect. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I'll kind of, no, well, remember I'm missing these two genes. And the speed, like
Yep.
momentum, love, speed, the speed at which I can get 10 real-time responses versus scheduling a meeting with the doctor
Yeah.
and going in, and maybe he didn't sleep well that night
Yep.
and he's not on his A game. So I like disagree with you a little bit because I think we do need to leverage the power of AI, but then also be smart enough to fact check it and then teach it and then continue, it'll continue to learn. So I was going to ask you, like, are you leveraging the power of these learning language models?
Yeah. Really great question. So maybe I should declare, I definitely should clarify what I say earlier. The interpretation process of vitality is 100% hand built. If we wanted to build an AI algorithm interpretation, we would have just thrown it into ChatGPT and then charged you the same price.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, right? Where ChatGPT is, or any AI is going to
Yeah.
struggle is they can only go based on the information that they know. And it has no database to pull from for optimal health. And so the database it is pulling from, I actually know literally the databases. It's called UK Biobank. There's a thing in here in the States called NHANES. So they're pulling from databases, and these databases are not you, and they're not healthy folks. And so when it's saying, hey, let me interpret A, B, and C for you, it's pulling it from a database of unhealthy people. Okay, it doesn't mean you throw it out. But when it's telling you this number is good, bad, it actually has no idea what great is supposed to be. It's simply saying here are medical cutoffs, and here's how reference ranges work. So when you throw in something into again your AI model, it says my vitamin D came back at 40. How's that look? Well, it's going to look and say the reference range is 30 to 75. Great. And it's going to say you're 40. You're doing amazing, Amanda. When you're going to look at this and say, well, wait a minute. Here's how these things work. If the bottom of that reference range to the top of that reference range, that is representative of 95 percentile. That's how reference ranges work, right? So reference ranges, again, if it's like below or above there, 95 percentile, which means you're only going to get flagged if you're in the bottom 2.5 percentile or the top 2.5 percentile. So if you were in the bottom 3 percentile, you're still going to be told you're great, right? Your vitamin D was 40. Right. Well, the reference range is 35, so you're within that. But really, are you cool with being 92nd percentile as in bad? No chance, right? And so it doesn't know what great is supposed to be because there's no, trust me, like as a scientist, we're actually working to try to build these things. We have no international or national database of hematological measures of great health. All we have
Yeah.
are clinical cutoffs for disease markers,
And I
right?
think we need to just get to that point where
Yep, we're
so
trying.
so I just added to my supplement stack tracker. My vitamin D is 40. How's that? Vitamin D level of 40 is decent, but for someone like you, focused on hormone health, immune strength, longevity, and fertility, we ideally want it higher. And then it gave me a very good answer.
Solid.
But it also, again, I've been training
Yeah.
my AI. And I think that, you know, to mention kind of earlier, so many people don't have the resources to go to someone like you. I'm going to work with you. Sign me up. Like, we're going to
Yeah,
sign me up right when we get off this call. Um, but many people, in my opinion, they should have a resource on a language learning model that
yep,
they can take ownership of their own health and start to really, you know, kind of work through these things. The thing is, like, when I go to a regular doctor, they are the ones that tell me
for
40
sure,
is fine. Like ChatGPT told me it
for
wasn't
sure.
just right now.
Yep,
So
for sure.
I want to see doctors really leveraging this.
Yeah.
We
Well,
just are going to
good
have to
news is they
create some.
are.
Okay,
This
good.
is actually a movement that's happening quite a bit because one thing that you can do that's really helpful to like to turn where we do use AI a lot. If you were to throw in your last 3 or 4 or 5 blood draws and you gave it the dates,
Hmm.
so you said, here's the date, January, blah, 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 blah. And then you ask it smarter questions. You'll start to get back stuff that we will never look at. So it might come back and go, oh, actually, your vitamin D over the last 6 years is actually higher in when you're in Florida. Interesting. Oh, I didn't notice. I didn't even think about that because you're just looking at these data points and it's going up and down, and you're worrying about one individual blood draw.
Yeah.
But it can start to look at things that you didn't even think about an environmental analysis on top of that. It's like, so if you ask it for interesting interactions, if you have more of your information in it, oh yeah, by the way, that was right when you were going through that lawsuit. Oh, wow. I don't need to then react to this because then your body came back, right? One thing that you will predictably see is a worsening of a number of molecular markers with women that have probably 2-year-olds and under, or stunning, right?
Which has been me for the past 14 years. Yes.
No, no question about it, right? So you're like, oh, okay. Well, if you just throw that into ChatGPT by itself, it's going to have no idea. If you give it that context, then it's going to start doing some really interesting things. So where we use AI is that stuff. We can then help and now since we're doing that, that stuff is pennies of cost, right? It's very cheap for anyone to use. And we can start creating these what we call unique molecular signatures. So the individual blood draw itself is not a huge deal, but it's that serial pattern over time. Some people like to do what you just said, and that is phenomenal. And other people are like, I don't have time to do all this stuff. Okay, great. So now you can outsource a little bit of that stuff where we'll help figure those things out for you and give you better interpretation. But that said, a huge number of physicians are leaning on this stuff because they can't remember, right? They're gonna come back and be like,
Right.
if you got a concierge doc, he probably remembers you, sure. But most people don't. You go back in, you're just like, okay, man, I'm looking at your chart. Right. Instead of looking at that, I can pull up their AI model background and be like, oh yeah, okay, I remember last time we tried this interaction. Then they can do what you maybe already doing, which is you can pre-upload genetic testing, you can upload medications, and then you can say, hey, by the way, I'm gonna add this new supplement. Anything I should pay attention to? And it'll come back and be like, oh, by the way, there's some small amount of data, maybe one pilot trial, by the way, that found an increased association with sleep problems with this medication and this supplement. Ah, great. Like that is a hugely again, most there's no chance you would even know it. And so that those are really smart ways if you're kind of doing your own health yourself, where you can use that for the blood interpretation and for supplement and other lifestyle changes. You can also use it to track progress. You're tinkering with PEMF. You're going to tinker with some other thing. Fine. Are we seeing objective improvements? It's a great way to run it. But
Yeah.
where maybe I should have been more specific earlier is what I don't want people to do is just take a blanket blood draw, throw it into thing and say, what should I do? That's going to lead to a lot of false positives and a lot of false negatives. So
Yeah.
wouldn't do that one.
I agree with that. I want to hear your perspective and maybe even your personal experience with peptides, and
Yep.
then we will wrap up. What are you personally using when it comes to peptides?
I don't personally use any peptides.
Interesting. Why is that?
Oh, a handful of reasons. From a coaching perspective, most of the people we coach athletes wise can't use them, like depending on how we're defining
Got it.
peptide.
I got you. Yeah.
That
I'm
said,
defining it as like BPC 157, TB
yep, can't use them.
500.
Those are all banned. for sports.
Wow.
So they're not on the table. Now we used to use BP prior to
Mhm.
them getting banned. TB has always been banned, so we can't go to that one. Obviously, growth hormone,
Obviously
all that
banned.
stuff has always been out there, everyone. Peptides in the form of insulin we can use, of course, has
Hmm.
been used. So like peptides is a really big category thing. So for
Right.
our athletes, we'll set that aside. For the most part, we don't have much to work with. Most of our clients are not athletes. Okay, fine. I don't personally use them. Don't see a need to do that. We are generally trying to correct things lifestyle wise as much as we possibly can. Not against them. So there is a reasonable subset of our clients who are using them and using them a lot. We can help with that. We can go to it. BP and TB, we're still waiting for any human data. Again, we've tinkered with it a bunch. Some people have done it, but it's a real mixed bag. Some
Yeah.
people have had good results, really good results. Others, total nothingness. So it's up there. Something like growth hormone obviously works. Like, okay, like we have enough data on that that's been around for a longer time. So if we need that, we can go to it for various reasons. But we generally don't have a lot of people that we prophylactically throw on stuff like BPC.
Got it.
If they're on it or ask about it, I'm not worried at all about it. Like, sure, it seems like I don't have that many stories behind the scenes of people having like huge bad reactions, especially to BPC.
Right.
Whether or not it's doing anything, like we'll see. The problem with it is when people generally use things like ipsamorelin, tesamorelin, and then you start throwing that in with TB 500 and add on list, you don't actually have any idea what's doing anything.
I
You definitely
totally
feel better,
agree
you
with
get
you.
better, but you're doing like 50 things. So then
Totally
I'm like,
agree.
oh, the stack worked great. I'm like, well, shit, you took growth hormone. It
That,
definitely worked.
yeah, that's my main thing. So
Yeah.
you're right. Peptides is a huge category. My ladies listening, some of them are on these kind of designer peptides, the
Yep.
synthetic peptides. I experiment as well. Others are selling quote unquote peptides, which are just hydrolyzed ingredients and not really
Yeah.
peptides and blah blah blah. I like to do one single thing at a time. So when I do
Gotcha.
BPC 157 for gut health, as an example, I'll do it in a silo without anything else for gut health, just to see how I feel. And for me, I do feel really good. Like I can tell a difference when I'm doing BPC 157 for gut health. So I'll cycle on, cycle off. And even then, certain brands versus
Yep.
others. I just yesterday started GHKCU, which is a copper
Yep.
peptide for
Yep.
skin. And so
Yep.
I'm just going to experiment with that. I want to see 10 days from now, do I have a glow? But that particular peptide was recommended with TB and
Yep.
BPC as an injectable. And I said, no, I want to just only do the GHKCU to see if I notice anything. And so I totally agree with you. Yes, growth hormone, if you're going to do a tesamorelin or an ipamorelin, I tried sermorelin, did nothing,
Yep.
nothing,
Yep.
nothing, nothing at all. And maybe because I'm in my 30s and I don't need it. I don't know.
Could
Could
be a
be.
thousand reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on kind of where you're at, the there's a lot of things to say here, but maybe I'll say it this way. Pep, no problem here, but peptides are not always a free pass.
Hmm.
And when you start messing with things like copper at those dosages, you better be tracking a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Zinc.
A ton, well, yeah,
Yeah.
like way more than I'm way more concerned than other stuff than that, but not against it. Again, like we're eyes are always open, ears are always open, like always want to continue to advance. But I am generally as a scientist, and then because of that, that lays my personal philosophy on top of that of saying I'd rather be behind the curve.
Yeah.
I'd rather be behind the curve and then not waste a bunch of time on
Mm.
things. Some people are the opposite. I want to be on the front edge. Okay, great. And they're willing to waste, not just about money, but it's sort of like you took a bunch of stuff at really high dosages and concentrations. We have no idea what it's actually doing or not. Okay, great. Like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather be like, what are we trying to do here? How do we know that we can? And if we're getting success,
Yeah.
why are we adding things that don't need to happen there? If we're not, I would say that's a little bit of a failure in data collection.
Yeah.
If your skin's not the glow that we wanted at, like what part of the equation are we missing? And then sometimes the answer is nothing. Sometimes you're just like, I just like want to have this. Oh, okay, like, all right, that's a real answer too. Like, fine. Not everything is solvable through testing at
I
all,
think
but
I'm in the
you get the point.
middle where you can, come from the scientific perspective. And then I have other colleagues who are like at the forefront of everything and their body is a literal, like just test subject and they're, trying everything. Like even with exosomes, I wasn't the first one to say,
Yeah,
let me try it. But then it's like, okay, I'm going to try it and I'm going to see how I feel. And guess what? My inflammation seemed to go down, my
great.
energy to go up. I was trying, so but again, it's like even certain, like I now know what brand of exosomes I'm like more in the Wharton's jelly and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
What
with
does the,
biologicals, that's real, right? There's something there. We're still in the dark ages. You get
Mhm,
this constantly. We've had some of our clients spend 100 G's in a single session on stuff and come back and feel nothing. And
right.
we've had some go to the local like shop at the mall and pay $50 and be like, oh my God, I feel incredible from this little stem cell injection. I'm like, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, don't ever do that again. But there's something
Totally.
there. That's one actually that I feel strongly about. When you get into all those biologicals, we are clearly as a field in the dark. We are
Right.
guessing at this point in so many areas. And I've heard all the spiels. I've worked with all the people there. Great. They're all working according to them, right? Phenomenal.
Right.
But there's something is there. What you won't hear though is some of the behind the scenes, and it's small. It's admittedly very small. But I know a lot of these people, these like front edge people, and they are just trashed.
Oh, yes. I have a
They're
very
trashed.
close friend who had a major, major, major issue with stem cells and almost died
Yeah, we're probably not the same person.
and
Like,
still does not look good.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I could tell you 50 stories of not that extreme, but 50 stories of my hands blew up.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Face things happen. You're just like, well, you can't inject things in your body for 12 years and not expect it. Like, you're going to catch that snake eyes, roll the dice. It's going to happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I hear
yeah.
you. I hear you. What does the next 5 years look like for you? What's kind of your main vision?
Yeah, we're going to continue to build out that lab and continue to do research that helps people that we find interesting. And so that lab, like I said, is under construction. And so we're at the fundraising part and the
Mm.
philosophy part and really making sure we have a stamp on that. So we have enough money, like I said, to get going, but yeah, always fundraising with a big project like that. So that is going to occupy some time at Parker for a while. And then with Vitality and Absolute Rest, of course, we're going to continue to grow those. And we have some, um, I definitely shouldn't say this, but in both avenues, we have a free version coming.
Love it.
So
Love to hear it.
um, if anyone were to look back over like the last 15 years of my public facing career, that's been a huge, huge, huge emphasis of mine. For probably a decade, I gave everything away for free. I didn't charge for anything. And so I will always do that. My podcast, the same thing. Season two was just released. We just do seasons. I can't do the like every weekly thing. But it is trying to get as much free education out there. We have actually a company that we didn't mention that's called Biomolecular Athlete, and that is our education company. And we got a bunch of free stuff coming from that, courses and guides and things like that all coming. And then lastly would be our coaching company. So what I didn't mention is we actually have a full immersion coaching company that does all this stuff. It does absolute rest, it does the blood work, and it does a whole bunch of stuff on top of that. And that's where we do that fun stuff of saying, like, let's really get you figured out. Let's dive in. Let's have a whole team of people behind you that are looking at stuff and building it. So that allows us to do a lot of innovative stuff. So the stuff that we've built with digital twins and creating digital replicas of people and their physiology, so then we can run AI experiments on them.
But
It's gone very, very well. And so that type of stuff is where we land. So it's a little bit of like, can I get as much stuff out to the world that is as accessible and free in the biggest numbers we can? And then we'll do all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is like you have endless money, but we want to see what humans are possible. Um, and whether that's longevity, like some of the people we work with or otherwise. That is definitely what the next 5 years look like for me.
I love it. Where can we find and follow you online?
Yeah, Twitter, and I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't care. Like, it's weird. I'm not calling it X. Um, Twitter and Instagram is Dr. Andy Galpin, and then my website, andygalpin.com, is it's got links to all this. And then of course you can go directly to Absolute Rest or Vitality, or the podcast is called Perform with Dr. Andy Galpin. So one thing I'll throw at you actually there is I did a whole episode this season on maximizing bone health, which is not exclusively a female issue, but basically one. So if you want a whole deep dive into that, you can go check that out, and all and we cover everything up to peptides and all that,
Oh,
like what to
cool.
do for bone. It's not the standard, like, kind of old boring stuff on there. So and then if you want to be in our sleep study, let us know.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Andy, thank you so much for spending time with the Faster Way community. We truly appreciate it. And we will follow you online and look forward to those free resources as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.